this weekend as well. Raycat Fadilla, who had a minor fall. He was pushing on in qualifying a week ago, but did exceptionally well to take 9th position on the grid on his debut. And Raycat Fadilla, who currently sits in 10th position in this race. We recover the leaders now. For Sato out in front again. Able to break a quarter of a second. Can he defend it this time? It's Mie this time around who holds 2nd position, then Danish, Thompson. Shiril's dropped all the way to 6th position. I think we're going to see what happens here.
Yeah, keep an eye on the number 21, just runs wide through those last couple of corners. You can see fairly high curves there on the entry to that corner as well, and then gets caught out just trying to get the gas a little bit too early, and that's what costs him his chance of being in that leading group. He's dropped down 2 seconds behind the race leader. You can see here with the race leader for Asado, he's also taking advantage of that to try and up his pace. He's down to low 1 minute 45s, which is pretty much about as fast as we've seen from him all the way through this race, and that's where we're seeing the leading group start to really fracture out.
And that's why we're seeing the live championship standings as well, because if Shiril were to finish down in 6th position, Furusato could potentially extend his lead to 48 points. Might be about to gain a position here, because we've seen Thompson running wide. Hongo moves in front of him into 4th position. Shiril with an opportunity. This is where we find out what Daniel Shiril is able to do without that toe from Furusato, because if he gets in front of the 2 riders directly in his path here, he's going to have something like a second to cover to 3rd position.
Yeah, still going to have a bit of ground to make up in that position, and that looks like well, another rider's gone down. It looks like it's down at turn 10, and we've seen a bit of action down there all the way through the morning so far.
I think that's Terima who has gone down on lap 8 of 16. So the Thai rider was on the fringes of the points, who was in that 5-way battle, and we're going to see the incident perhaps here, and it's going to be 2 riders involved. That's a straightforward situation of who has gone down and collected Turaki Buapa, I think that is, who was alongside him, and he has now remounted to continue on in the race, but clearly out of contention when you're in a pack race like that one. And that group has now become a 6-rider group instead of the 8 or so who were all involved.
Yeah, it's starting to split up a little bit, and the reason for that is you've got to make those attacks, and you can see there for both of those riders on the run down into 10. For Buapa, he was at least able to get himself remounted, get back out there, but for Tumtimon, he's obviously out of this race. It looks like the stewards are going to investigate that incident as well. It did look like number 16 of Tumtimon was at fault for that, but also a bit of a racing incident there. He's going to try and make moves into turn 10.
Yes, it does look as though that's the passing place of choice for these Asia Talent Cup riders, and Wacharan took time on. The 18-year-old from Thailand left Qatar with a couple of points to his name. Looks set for his best result here today, fighting in that 8-rider group, and unfortunately it's all come to nothing with an incident there also involving Buapa. Back to the front of the field, Furusato still leads it. It's Mie in 2nd position, Daniel Shiril fighting his way through. I think now up into 3rd position, coming through on Danish. On the inside of him there you can see the number 13, that's Danish on the outside, and Shiril, the number 21, making his way through, and Carter Thompson sticking with them, as is Hongo. So now this is 4 riders in contention for a podium position. We've been in this situation before, where the top 2 have been able to break away in the Asia Talent Cup. It's 0.6 of a second now, the gap to bridge for Daniel Shiril. A new personal best for Shiril last time around. He's just come across the line. That's Hongo who's gone down, coming off the final turn. So Hongo, who was one of the riders in the 4 riders, the quartet chasing 3rd position, he's gone down spectacularly there, coming off the final turn.
Yeah, looks like a bit of gravel pushed onto the track as well in the exit there, the last corner, but that's a shame for Hongo. But we've seen that obviously in that second part of the group, the riders have to push on because they're seeing it start to split out, and yeah, he just runs out onto the green paint, and there is that bit of a kick off the curve there for him. You can see there the
level of the curve certainly different to the level of the track and the asphalt surface around the curve. I was saying earlier on, Steve, when we were watching free practice in Superbike, we saw Jonathan Ray at one point come down off a curve and get all unsettled by it. These curves do seem to be particularly high here in Indonesia. This is a new venue, and we're talking about smoothing out the circuit, but it's not smooth offline, that's for sure. That'll stop them from abusing the green paint, that's it.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to be exceeding track limits if that's the penalty, and Congo just caught out by that, but those are riders in that second part of the league group. They do need to push on, otherwise they're not going to be able to catch up to the two race leaders. It does look like at this stage, so Furasada and Mia have that enough of an edge. In third position, Daniel Shariel, he's trying to catch that, but he's got about a second to make up.
He did make up 4/10 of a second last time around on Furasato, the race leader. That was on lap number 9 with a new personal best from Daniel Shariel, the number 21. You can just see coming into the background of that shot there. He's leaving the two riders directly behind him further adrift. Denish and Thompson don't look to be able to live with him. He's actually managed to make a gap of half a second on this lap around to the riders behind him, and another new personal best lap from Daniel Shariel. And having dropped back to 6th position at one stage after a minor error that cost him 2 seconds to the leader, he's now only 6/10 of a second behind Furasato and in front. Lap 11 of 16. There is still time for Shariel really to make this a 3-rider fight for those podium places.
It's worth really important for Furasada to get his head down as well, because we've seen they stretch out a little bit of a lead over the number 5 of Mia as well at around about 3/10 of a second. So he is trying to open up a bit of a gap, but he also know that Daniel Shariel is that rider on the charge, and Shariel's done a really good job to set his fastest lap, close again within a couple of tenths of a second in second position.
Yes, and they're doing a good job really to stick with the leader Furasato, as we say, and Shariel an exceptional job to close back in on him. Here is Fadila Aditama, who we were talking about earlier on, the man who'll be taking his place in the Rookies Cup for 2022. He's only had one race finish so far this season, and that was race 1 of the Doha Grand Prix. Came home in 8th position, and Aditama up in P6 here today. That, frankly, is the best he can hope for, unless there's further drama up in those top 5 positions, because we've got a trio at the front separated by just 6/10 of a second. Shariel is right with them now, and within striking distance of making a pass on Mie for second position here. Still Furasato leading. Then we've got a second to Carter Thompson in P4 and Denish in P5, and behind them 9 seconds to Aditama and Fadila, a couple of Indonesian riders there strapping it out for P6. Slight mistake there from Shariel. That's given a bit of breathing room to Mie in P2.
Yeah, he's going to be able to pick up the slipstream down the start-finish straight though and close that gap a little bit, but at the front of the field, we're seeing Furasada again in those low 1-minute 45s, with the fastest rider in the group is still Daniel Shariel, even with that mistake at the end of that.
Shariel closing back down on Mie and Furasato. As through on the inside comes Denish, Hakan Denish coming through for 4th position on Carter Thompson. But unless something dramatic happens among those top 3, which is entirely possible in the closing stages, then it does look as though they're only scrapping for P4. They're making entertainment of it, that's for sure. Thompson and Denish scrapping and swapping.
Yeah, and you can see Thompson there in number 6 machine, just making sure he was able to hold on to that 4th position. We've seen him have good results so far this year, 3 top 5s in the opening 2 rounds of the year in Qatar, so he's been adapting well to an Asian Talent Cup bike, running inside the top 5 again in this race, once to come out in that battle, on top of that battle with Denish.
Yes, and meanwhile, up at the head of the field, it is Daniel Shariel, who knows that this is crucial in the context of the championship for him. Needs to get as many points off Furasato as he possibly can. Furasato, of course, with that 41-point lead coming into this race. So to keep things as best as possible within his own hands, Shariel needs to be taking victories and needs to see Furasato finishing a little bit further down the order. We're only at the halfway mark of the 2021 Asia Talent Cup. 4 races still remaining, including this one, of course. But further back, it is as tight as anything, from 2nd down to 6th in the series standings. Only 13 points between them. So anything that happens to the front runners in the championship, that makes a major impression. We said that earlier on with Kanta Hamada going down, sitting 5th in the standings, and he is going to lose out here to the other riders around him in terms of points. Back to the front then, and it's Furasato who's leading. He looks to have consolidated his advantage on this latest lap around. A new personal best lap, that's why, to 1:44.922, and he stretches 4/10 out over Mie, which means that Shariel has got to go. He needs to leave Mie behind him, and he's got to stick with Furasato if he's to have hopes in the remainder of this race.
Yeah, nice clean move there by Shariel to take 2nd spot in the run into turn 1, and now the key thing for him is to be able to make sure he's close enough to try and attack into turn 10. We saw that Mia was the rider that was able to attack into turn 10 earlier on. Shariel, for all the time he spent behind Furasato, we didn't really see him try and make a move on him.
Yes, the gap from 3rd to 4th last time around was extended by 1.5 seconds. So Carter Thompson and also 46 146.5 and a 146.8 respectively, compared to that 44.9 from the race leader Furusato. Shiril and Mie have both responded on lap 13, and Furusato stands up, has a good look over his shoulder just to check how many people are in this group, and I can tell you that unless one of these three riders goes down, these are going to be your podium trio. The question is, in what order?
Yeah, for Asada, that's another time we've seen him have that big look over his shoulder. He's not afraid of checking to see who's around him, and he's not trying to just keep his head down and focusing on his lap times. He wants to know what's happening around him. That shows he's probably got a little bit of pace in hand as well for these final 3.5 laps.
It's the top 5 in this race are all in the top 6 positions in the championship. Hamada, who crashed at turn 10 earlier on in this race, is the odd one out, and the top 3 in points terms, a tie at the moment between Gunmir and Hakim Danish, settled by the best result, which was Gunmir's second place in the opening race of this campaign, which means that the top 3 in the championship standings are the top 3 on track at present, and they are in the order they are in the championship, which would mean that the gaps between them all would continue to extend. 3 laps to go, and Shiril losing ground again around the first turn of lap 14 with a bit of an error.
Yeah, Furusato is trying to turn the wick up there as well at this stage, and last time around he was able to lose a couple of tenths of a second with that look over his shoulder to see what was around him, but he's still got a good amount of pace in hand. We'll see if he's able to really try and stretch out his lead now in this lap. He looks like he's got his head down, wants to try and really be aggressive and open up a bit of a gap. There was only 2 tenths of a second when they came across the line. It's up to half a second now.
Yes, as you can see on the screen, the gap to the leader, 8 tenths of a second for Mie in 3rd position, and it could very well turn into a duel between Shiril and Mie here for 2nd place, because Furusato really kicking on. Shiril responding around that latest sector and through the twisted stuff and in towards turn 10. They're making their way now, the leaders, through turns 11 and 12. It switches on to the final sector as we switch back to the battles further down the order. Dale, well, they've switched at just the right time. Dale making a lunge down the inside. I think that might have been of Anitama, and both of them have gone down and into the gravel trap. And Dale looks, Anitama looks none too pleased with Dale there after that ambitious move down the inside. Another incident at turn 10.
Yeah, for Anitama, that was out of 6th position, and on course for a really good performance here in his home round. See Carter Thompson then make a move through the fast right-handers at the end of the lap.
And this will be for 4th position, as Hakim Danish loses a place. Carter Thompson then through back into P4. These two have been swapping and changing. I suspect that if we'd been watching just that battle, we would have seen another 100 of those overtaking manoeuvres. We're now on to the penultimate lap of the race for the leaders. For Sato 4 tenths of a second up ahead of Shiril, who's got in front of Mie and made a 3 tenths of a second advantage.
Yeah, you can see there Aditama there on the number 3 going down, and again, like you said, Alex, another move into turn 10. It's easy to be a little bit ambitious on the run into there, and just to have an instant like that in front of the field, though, Furusato doing a good job now just to keep that lead at around about 3 tenths of a second. Shiril's digging in. Last time around in the final sector, he did close back to within a couple of tenths of a second, but it's really difficult to try and close that gap then in Furusato.
Haven't we seen that already in 2021 in the Asian Talent Cup? Furusato happy to lead at the front of the field, happy to try and break his rivals for pure pace, not too worried about the slipstream advantage that's given to the riders behind him, because he knows he's got an inherent pace advantage. He wasn't able to show it in qualifying here a week ago, but thanks to the free practice sessions as well earlier on today, he's clearly got to grips with this 4.3 kilometre Mandalika International Circuit, our first ever race here around this venue, and it's in the Asia Talent Cup. But it looks like the one thing that hasn't changed is our race leader. Furusato out in front, looking set to extend his series lead.
Yeah, Shiril's doing a good job in this lap, though, holding with him, and he's a tenth of a second faster so far, but the clock is winding down on him. But it's really important now for Shiril to get close enough to try and hit 3
in a row. We had this finishing order between Furusato and Daniel Shiril in both of the races at the Doha Grand Prix. Furusato has had only one finishing position in 2021, and they've all been worth 25 championship points. Shiril then 2 tenths further down, and we've got a fall, and is that Danish? Yes, it is. It's Danish who's gone down in his fight with Carter Thompson. Last time over the line, he was in front, I think, of Thompson in the battle for 4th place. We'll see what happens here.
Keep an eye in the background, and you're going to see for Denisha, just tries to be a little bit aggressive through that last corner, trying to make sure he's able to close up on Carter Thompson to set up a move on the final lap. and just asks a bit too much of his Honda machinery.
Yes, now look at the leaders. A tenth of a second between them on this final lap. Shireel has managed to find something a little bit special, a little bit extra. He was stuck down in 6th position at one stage. He's fought his way through onto the tail of Furasato. Furasato still unbeaten in 2021. Daniel Shireel might be about to have a go at stopping that from being the scenario. They make their way now in towards turn 10. This has been an action hotspot all race long. It's been an incident hotspot all race long as well. Furasato there defending to the inside. It's going to be single file through here. Turns 11 and 12 in towards the final sector. Shireel chooses now down the inside into 12. Catches Furasato by surprise. Opportunity for Furasato on the number 15 here to make a recovery in similar fashion as the 13 and 14. What about a lunge into turn 16, the slowest corner on the circuit? Daniel Shireel looking for his first race victory since his return to the Asia Talent Cup. He was last a winner in Thailand 2018. He's fighting for the lead here against Furasato, the championship leader, who goes soaring around the outside bravely. 2 turns to go. 16 and now 17. They cut through the left-hander, and it's Furasato who once again leads. It is Taiyo Furasato of Japan to make it 5 wins out of 5, and the inaugural race victory at the Mandalika International Circuit goes to Taiyo Furasato. The first time this season that he's been off pole position, the first time he's ever been off pole position in the Asia Talent Cup, but he doesn't disappoint. He comes through to the front. He leads almost throughout. Daniel Shireel was disappointed with that, shaking his head, heading his hands practically as he made his way back in towards turn number 1. Shireel second best, but only by 0.2 of a second. That's 3 races in a row now where he's tried to give Furasato a real run for his money. Gumie with his 3rd podium finish of this 2021 campaign, 2nd time that he's finished in P3. Carter Thompson, an isolated 4th position in the end after late drama for Hakim Denish. So it does look as though we're only going to have 14 finishers to this race. I think I cursed it earlier on when I said that there hadn't been that many retirements in the Asian Talent Cup in 2021. And that means that Fadilla on the Raycat Fadilla making his debut in the Asia Talent Cup is a strong performer, the Indonesian rider, with P5 ahead of Herjan Ferdaus, who takes P6, and Shireel, Pratama, Fujita and Buapa eventually remounting to come home for 10th place. So a bit of wacky races at times, but the one thing that was, as we might have anticipated before the lights went out, a fine victory that from Furasato, bowled around that final sector in particular.
Yeah, Furasato coming through from the 2nd row of the grid, and he'll have to do the same again in tomorrow morning's race, but certainly for him, he was able to show once again the talent that he has on offer. That last corner move that he made through the long right-handers, the ever-decreasing radius right-handers, it really was impressive. That took the breath away, really, and Daniel Shireel did nothing wrong during the course of that race. He holds the right line on the run into those right-handers. You saw whenever he came across the line, he had to look up to the skies and just think, what do I have to do to win a race?
And aggressive when he needed to be as well through turn 12. I wasn't expecting really to see a move there, but Shireel got close enough to try and strike and capitalised on the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think for Shireel, put everything he could onto this and left it all on the track, and we saw that he was able to set fast lap times to bridge himself back up to the 2 race leaders. But ultimately in that final lap, Furasato just had that little bit hand, and really daring move by Furasato. But that's why he's the rider that's already guaranteed to be on the World Championship grid next year.
This is one of the men of the moment as far as the Indonesian spectators here this weekend will be concerned. Raycat Fadilla, the number 24, on his Asia Talent Cup debut, and coming home for 5th position. A couple of Indonesian riders scoring decent points here today, and every reason then for the spectators to be satisfied, and hopefully their riders will come back for more here over the course of this weekend. We've still got 3 races to go in the Asia Talent Cup for 2021, and indeed for this Indonesian round. We've got effectively 2 rounds this weekend, round 3 and round 4 of the Asia Talent Cup, with 4 races, as I say, in total. It's as though Daniel Shireel is paddling his way back towards the podium area. We will have celebrations with our top trio. But Furasato, as far as he's concerned, another race victory. It's only 5 points gained, damage limitation for Daniel Shireel. But if he is a race winner here tomorrow, that will be enough to seal the Asia Talent Cup.
Yeah, and certainly you wouldn't bet against it for Furasato with the form that he's been in, and just the manner in which he was able to take that race victory. And could well be the latest Asian Talent Cup champion as early as the opening race of tomorrow. And certainly from that point on, it's going to be a very different weekend as well, because we also have a qualifying session tomorrow morning, and that'll set the